Welcome to Channel X TV. Delighted to be joined today by Rodger, the founder and CEO, actually, of Crobox, to talk about omnichannel retailing and, in particular, sales assistants. So, welcome, Rodger. How are you?
Thanks, Chris. Yeah, I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Great. Well, we're going to talk today a bit about guided buying, but before we get to that, I want to discuss omnichannel retailing because it's so different at the different ends. There's the kind of the in-store traditional retailing, and then there's everything else that we love that goes on online. But let's start with traditional retailing, Rodger. What do consumers love in store that they can't get online? What makes sort of physical retailing so attractive for consumers?
Well, I think, the traditional store plays actually still a very important role in the whole mix of commerce, so to say. I believe that there is, for a very big chunk, the sensory experiences, right? Touching, feeling, seeing with your own eyes, especially when there's a level of, well, let's say, uncertainty involved, right? I think you gave a good example in your last show, or one of your last show with Sharon from Feedonomics, where you mentioned that for television you still go in store because you want to see the
I want to see what the picture looks like on a TV, and I don't care how good it is online. It's only as good as the screen I'm looking at it on.
Exactly, and those are the specific reasons why people really still go to the store. Next to that, I think there's also, let's say, the instant gratification that people just go in store because they want to switch the products and immediately get it back. And I also believe that there's still, we're all humans, and there's still just a need for, let's say, human interaction and getting really the advice of a store associate and just having a more personal recommendation, so to say. And then maybe last but not least, I think people still go to stores because shopping is also it's a social activity, right? That you can do with family and friends, which you probably not do very quickly online, right? So yeah, I do believe that this is, it will actually in the age of where we are currently even become a more and more important channel, so to say.
Yeah, and I have to say, I do love shopping in store. And one of my pet peeves is the sort of self-service checkouts. I just refuse to use them. I want to speak to someone when I'm in store. I want the service of the experience, and kind of self-service doesn't do it for me at all.
Yeah, exactly.
But talking of service, one of the things that I do love in store is that you can get some help. And I know sometimes you go into a shop and the minute you walk through the door, you've got that sales assistant that jumps on you and says, "How can I help you today?" And I'm thinking, look, I just want to have a look around your store to start with. But then when I find a product, and maybe it's, I don't know, a pair of shoes or a jumper, and I can't find it in my size, and I want to ask them if they've got it in my size, and you know what? They've magically disappeared and you can't ever find anyone anymore. But so what do consumers really want from that social experience, specifically with the store assistant? And what do people tell you, and what is important to them?
Yeah, I believe that there are some very clear distinctions between, let's say, a store associate and an exceptional store associate, so to say. I believe that a store associate that operates really well is someone that's able to observe in such a way that they know when they need to be there for you at the right moment, right? And this is a very nuanced kind of experience that you need to have. But I believe that that makes a store associate great, so that when you need them, they're just at the right moment there to help you. What I also think is exactly what you're mentioning is that once you're really in need for something, a store associate can ask you the right kind of questions to truly understand what you're looking for, right? Without even immediately giving certain recommendations, but it's asking, listening what you're saying, asking the right kinds of follow-up questions. And based on that, a store associate can give you a really good recommendation. And I think what makes an associate really exceptional next to that is they really understand who you are as a consumer and what you're looking for. Then two, they give you really the right kind of recommendation, but they also explain you why this recommendation is really good for you. And they highlight the benefits of that specific product or solution, and they match that exactly with your needs, right? That's what eventually facilitates a real good purchase decision, right? Because then you have really also the feeling that you're that you're meeting your needs and that you buy the right kind of product.
Now, where I really become interested in this is when I'm shopping online.
Yeah,
it's how can a digital assistant of any description replicate that in-store experience? I mean, I could be buying anything. It could be something like a snowboard, where how rigid do I want the board? How long does the board need to be for my height and weight? What sort of bindings? I've got all sorts of questions, and it'll depend if I'm, for instance, just want speed down a mountain, or if I want to play in the park on the features with the board. It's going to have real different variants for the right product for me.
Yeah.
But when I'm on a website, there's just like a whole range of products. I could really do with that sort of shopper system. So how can a digital assistant kind of replicate that in-store experience with almost like a personal shopper that you can get in some stores?
Yeah, so I think especially with a quite, well, let's say technical product like snowboards, currently when you go to a website, you actually have two means on how you can then filter through the product catalog, right? So the first option is just the traditional search bar, but search, of course, only works if you exactly know what you're looking for, and you're currently looking for a snowboard. However, just using then the search bar doesn't get you very far, because you actually need guidance in order to find the right snowboard for you. Then, of course, next to search, you have, let's say, filter navigation, right? Or the sidebar navigation. That can be sufficient, but usually only up until a certain level, because what you will see is that the sidebar navigation is more of a reflection of the technical product attributes that retailers have, right? And those are actually not very, consumer friendly, so to say. And I think that's exactly where a digital assistant or product advisor comes in, is what we aim to do is ask questions that resonate with your needs, and we translate that back and link that to the technical attributes of a specific product. So we're actually creating the link between those two aspects. And asking those questions helps you filter down to a set of products that really are connected to your needs, so you can make the right kind of decision. And that's a role that basically complements the search and the sidebar navigation, and it works very well for in two different ways. The first one is product complexity, right? So this works very well with products that have a lot of technical attributes, such as indeed snowboards, but also backpacks, running shoes. These are all the electronics, and also for televisions is a really good category in that specific sense, right? It's more than only about the size of the television, but there are a lot of new technologies involved, which are not very easily understood by a consumer, and hence that's why a product advisor can really give more explanation and give more context, so you can eventually make the right kind of decision. So in that sense, it complements very well with the other options on site.
So tell us just a little bit more about what you're doing at Crobox, and what can you bring to a retailer on their own site?
Yeah, so well, as I already quickly explained, I think there are two consumers experience stress of choice, not only offline, but definitely also online, which makes it in a lot of cases very hard and difficult to make the right kind of decision. And the stress of choice is because, or either A, there's just too much to choose from, right? Too many products online, or B, there is the product is so technical complex that you actually need help, right? And especially for those two areas, we have built a solution which is called a guided selling platform. And what the solution does is we help brands and retailers build such a product advisor that they can deploy online, so they can help their consumers make eventually the right kind of decisions. What's important?
Sorry, carry on.
Yeah, so what's important for that is where we also try to differentiate, because in the end it's not so much about the technology, it's more about getting a deeper understanding of consumers and what consumers need, right? So in building a Crobox, I try to involve as much consumer psychologists as possible in the whole process, because this is in the end where it's all about, right? It's not so much about the technology, it's more about how do I understand my consumers and how can I translate this to the right kinds of products, because in the end, that's what we're all aiming for, regardless of the channel.
So this is really interesting. Can you give me some real world brand or retailer examples that are using digital assistants and guided selling to sort of absolute best effect?
Yeah, for sure. I think a really good example is ASICS. ASICS, well, they of course happen to be of course also a customer of Crobox, but I think the case is very interesting because this happened actually during COVID, and when COVID was introduced in the world, ASICS saw almost a threefold in traffic increase on their site. And reason being was that, of course, all the gyms were getting closed, right? So no one was able to work out anymore, but people went outside. So what people started to do is a lot of people started with running. They went to the site, but there's an offering of 200 different types of running shoes. And then the question becomes,
that's a lot to choose from.
Well, yeah, what kind of running shoe do I actually need? And that's where we started to partner up, and we said, hey, listen, if we can build a shoe finder and making sure that we ask the right kind of questions, right? So what's your running goal? Are you actually trying to lose weight, or are you training for a marathon? Those are based on those answers, you need to actually recommend different types of running shoes. And so we started this as an initial project. And eventually, we were able to roll this out quickly, because then we were able to help out everyone in Europe find the right kinds of running shoes. And this was a very typical replication of what the ASICS store associate normally would do in store. But yeah, the stores were closed, so we could really take over that function for them, and that worked out very well. Another example I would say is, of course, with regards to sizing. So we have a customer, Love Stories, and Love Stories is a fashion lingerie brand from the Netherlands. Sizing and bra sizing is a very challenging aspect for a lot of female. Almost 80% doesn't know their own size or has issues with finding the right kind of size. And this was especially reflected on site. And so we, together with Love Stories, we created a size and style finder, where we were able to at least guide the visitors or the consumers through a simple set of questions, but eventually helping them out with finding that right size, right? Because that was driving a lot of additional transactions, but B, it also makes sure that you just reduce your returns, right? Which is equally important nowadays in e-commerce. And so What we've seen in, I think, within a month time is an increase of almost 300% in the transactions and conversion rates. And that was clearly showing that guidance, whether this is on the style side or on the sizing, is clearly helping out a consumer, not only finding the right kind of product, but also making sure that they make the purchase with confidence.
So this has been absolutely fantastic. I've got one other question. We've spoken so much today about guided selling and the consumer and what the consumer needs. And it would be kind of remiss of me if I didn't ask about the retailer's own needs. Now, a good assistant in store, often directed by management with bonuses, will kind of guide me to not necessarily the most expensive product, but the product with the most margin, or the stock that they need to shift because they're overstocked. With guided selling, can we build in that same sort of back-end infrastructure to guide consumers to perhaps not just only give them the choice of the most expensive product or the one with the highest margin, but give them a choice of multiple items, but present the ones that we really want to sell the most first?
Yeah, so what we can do and what we help our customers with is indeed a sort of a ranking system based on a diverse set of attributes. And what we find important is that, because that also defines the success of a product advisor, is that what we recommend truly is matching with the needs of the consumer. However, in a lot of cases, you will see that there are just multiple products that meet the consumer needs. And then you have the ability to say, hey, listen, we have 3 different types of products, and we give our retailers and brands the option to decide what kind of option they would like to offer at first, right? And this can be based on a diverse set of different dynamics, such as price, such as margin, stock levels, or whatsoever. Yeah, for sure.
Fantastic. Rodger, I want to thank you so much for your time today. But for anyone that wants to find out a bit more about Crobox and guided assistance, how do they get hold of you? Where can they find out more?
Well, I think the most easy is on the website, crobox.com. People are more than happy to connect with me directly on LinkedIn. It's linkedin.com.
We'll put your website and the LinkedIn in comments below. But yeah. Rodger, thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks for having me, Chris.